Potter's Journal. I was glad to know last year so many of you enjoyed the turtle, fish, and rose column sculptures, and this year the faux wood. There's been some questions about just what it's made out of. Okay, here it is, clay pipe, extruded industrially. Um, I am going to take you on a walk back, okay, with pictures. Remember pictures? Okay, from the last century. This is from the 80s, the early 90s. This is at the Logan Clay in Ohio. This was initiated by Dick Hall there and continued for 30 years. Very unique opportunity for artists. And something that, they didn't get their name on a plaque or anything. So very, both unique opportunity for artists and support of the arts. This went on for nearly 30 years. This is something from the past. So respect their privacy, and but maybe look for a brickyard near you that may be extruding flue. But this is also something I'll demo on how it can be done on a potter's wheel and with slab work. But for now, let's take a look back in my potter's picture journal. Yeah, remember pictures. I could talk about this one forever, but I will just say right in the center, the artist originator of the workshop, Jerry Kaplan, and people from the plant who made it possible. The then president's wife, Mary, and I believe the young boy to her side there is the current plant president. And without their support, it's something that would have never happened. Remember pictures. Here we go. And there's the stuff of it. This is chimney pipe, flue. This is something that almost any brickyard may be making today. So if there's one year you pumping some of this stuff out, I can come and do a workshop for you. This is handwork on the side of the plant where we worked. The other side was completely assembly lined with very little hand operation, or at least it seemed to us, but a lot of hand operation in the part of the plant where they let us work. They would produce all kind of shapes and forms, and people would be hungry for everything, but we had to be careful because sometimes appetites were bigger than stomachs. We mostly worked with a 6-inch pipe, and about 5 foot tall. It would take 2 people to load them on a cart to bring it up in the loft where they let us work. Occasionally we'd work with 10-inch pipe, 8. That'd be quite a bit to handle. The flue, not as dense, couldn't do quite as much with it, but yeah, even those not as physically able were able to lift, handle, and move. And it brought in workshop participants from around the country. Some that would maybe do this just once, or many came back a number of years. Some almost for the entire run of the workshop. It happened here for over 30 years. Many artists from Columbus and Pittsburgh because of the connection. Kyle, Pittsburgh artist who maybe I should visit sometime. He does glaze welding with a lot of his pieces. Here's a whale's tail. If you can imagine that diving into the grass. Now fired, it stood up on its own, but when the clay was wet, it was quite an engineering feat with ropes and boards to get it to dry and support itself in the end. There was always some kind of event for participants. This lady just became a grandmother, did a sculpture of a baby and her son. And it looks like here somebody had a birthday. I know mine fell one year during the workshop. I was about in my late 20s at the time. It was slow for me to figure out what to do with this stuff. But once I did, this was one of my most successful pieces. The pod-like forms, maybe tomb-like, maybe seed-like with the targets on it. Okay, both square on the round form, both leads to the infinite and infinity. So let's see, here they are finished and out in the garden. And I was slow to move on when I found something. I'd have to say the first piece in the series was the most successful. This I still consider my masterwork, a Kohut's Kohut, but it needs to be reinstated. There's a bigger story here that you'll have to stop back for. Okay, here he is, Jerry Kaplan in his later years, but still a piece of sculpture towering up over his head. He's the one who made these workshops well known across the country here in the States, Fremont, California, Logan, Ohio. He did them in Europe, in Germany. And this was in his later years when, yeah, occasionally things got ahead of him. This one, everybody always said would have been a great fountain, or maybe it was. I don't remember. And he could take the pipe and cut it up, give it a little bit of shape like Matisse with the paper, and put it back together in a three-dimensional collage. And here's the piece fired later, or one of the pieces fired later in a show. And, you know, I had the feeling that I was looking over Matisse's shoulder when he made the couple of pair of heads here. And, yeah, I told him I'd like to purchase, and he gave me a very good price. And then I told him, but I want them both. They are a pair. So he had to give them to me both at a student at a well good price. But he got his money worth out of me in the later end. He got, yeah, I assisted him a lot with the workshop and was not paid. I teased him that were these to be tombstones over his grave. And he worked also a lot with Barb Kindler. She was by his side through the years too. Her and I both worked together too after he was gone, continuing the workshops. Here's some of her work on the back table. And there was often a lot of humor in her work. This was a favorite piece of hers. I tried to acquire it just as she tried to acquire a good piece of mine. In the end, we had to just grab one of the other's pieces. We never worked out a trade. But, and they weren't the best of hers or mine, but we both in the end got something to remember the other. Okay, and here we go, another group of workshop participants. This also from the early 80s. You can see the kiln in the background, one of the beehives. And the, okay, conveyor bringing clay from one side of the plant over to the other. The then plant president's wife joined the workshop after a number of years. She didn't know what was going on. They would have the artists up to their house in midweek. It was a time to relax, to get away from the work, to get to know the other artists. It was a beautiful setting. They did have a sculpture garden and well-landscaped grounds. And they really made a great opportunity for artists. And had us, into slide night, where we really got to know each other and share a bit. Okay. Their garden collected pieces from the workshop participants over the years. This was an artist that, unfortunately, they never came back to pick up their pieces. So, yeah, if this is you, contact me. But you've become, okay, a part of their collection. This is a Pittsburgh artist, Marie Kelly, who I worked next to during my first year there. She would go, youth, with me being about 26 or 7. And I thought she was only in her 70s about the time. I thought I was working next to Picasso. And this truly was a great opportunity for artists that Logan did for over 30 years, even after the halls were gone. Okay, this is Denise, a Columbus artist, because of the proximity, number of artists from Columbus. A wave here. Since the workshop, her work is taking on an increasingly environmental message. You know, if I can find a link, I will put it up to her, her YouTube, not YouTube, her website. And okay, here I am. I did move on to eventually new shapes and forms. There's some Easter Island-like heads. These guys were most dramatic, shown as a group of three. They were also shown separately. I think one of them ended up in the Ohio Ceramic Center's collection. I'd like to get back there and find out if he's still there. This one, though, is still here and has taken on a life of his own. So maybe like Easter Island, someday he'll be dug up out of the ground. And here's another year, the start of another series. I assembly lined it. There were 5 of these to make. Okay, and here we go, up on the table on a platform. I started working sitting down. And it was always a race to see if you could get these pieces done in a week. Being taken over by nature, there are 5 of these at 6 foot tall. I may have overshot my market with these guys. Do you know anybody who just built a 5-story office building out off of the highway somewhere? Wouldn't this look great in an entry? This was an accident. Something fell over one year. Okay, and I put a collage underneath of it. So these became my Stomp Collages. Everybody loves seeing the demos of these. But there was a lot of technical bits involved with it, and many of them didn't make it through the firing. Here I am with Jerry, another Pittsburgh artist. Okay, I was Jerry's family in Logan, and Dale was Jerry's family in Pittsburgh. So here we are all together. Someday I'll have to step away from the wheel and demo my Stomp Collage for you. It is a bit of the Jackson Pollock dance and the 3-dimensional collage. This has been a favorite when I demo pieces, and I even once performed on stage. Here's one of Tim's columns. This stacks up on pieces that come apart in sections. I was never that wise and always made mine in one piece. Retired middle school principal Ted, he participated for several decades in the workshop. And here he is with one of his typical Pittsburgh houses. Ted's houses could easily be slab made. I did want one of his character houses. But when I found out this was a typical Pittsburgh house, I see them now every time I drive through the city, with the dormer facing back into the roof so it leaks. I think of you, Ted, every time I drive through the city and here in the garden. Often would have a student or two join us. Okay, working here with the soft pillows. And okay, here one that we explained. This will not make it out of here into the elevator. And he seemed to understand at the time. I was surprised when it did not get fired. And some very professional people too. Sally, okay, who did a demo for the workshop one year. Sometimes a commissioned piece she was working on. Once they canceled the commission and it sat in her garage for several years after she made it. Okay, here we go. One of the old beehive kilns not in use anymore. One year there was no hotel room. and I camped out in the kiln. They were originally fired with coal. Here, modernized, firing with gas. On the other side of the plant, it was an assembly, or it was a car kiln that never turned off. I think I have excerpts of that in my videos from last year. And okay, here we go again. Sally on a very large piece, and the kilns there. Okay, this is the looks when they come out. And okay, another group, another year. And here we are inside the kiln. One year they were rebuilding one. Somewhere I do believe I have slides of that. And occasionally we get together and have a show in a gallery. So, okay, there we are, all cleaned up. And the collection from the people from the plant, they did get my head here on the right. So I was very happy to be a part of their collection. I was very happy to get a piece of my sculpture in the Hall's collection when garden book author Ken Druce visited their garden, probably on a garden book tour. He took an awful lot of pictures in their garden. They probably didn't expect this, but in his book, The Passion for Gardening, appears my work. And they had to say, we're so excited you got a picture in the book, but they didn't mention you. However, it did mention them, the Halls, as benefactors, and that was well deserved. So, do you think you have clay to be recycled? Okay, what about this? So this is an opportunity that was rarely made available to artists. Here I am in one of the early years. The president of the plant at the time came out with us, and he got very nervous because if you know, broken ceramics is sharp. You could get terribly cut on it. But I didn't know it at the time. I guess this was the start of me endearing myself to him, and I continued the workshops after Jerry Kaplan was gone. So the Halls and Logan Clay have done their part, but there is no substitute for this stuff. The flue liner, maybe there's a brickyard near you extruding it. Talk to them, let me know. Let's do a workshop. That was my first 10 years working with the stuff. I've been at it for 40. If you like slides and photos, stop back for the next 30 years and see more from pipe sculpture workshops.